I thought the worst thing that could happen on a night shift was boredom. I was wrong. Because at 3:17 in the morning, I watched a man walk into the gas station from a road that had been closed for 20 years. Pause. My name is Daniel Carter. I grew up in a small town in northern Missouri, the kind of place people pass through without ever remembering the name. One main road, one diner, one church, one grocery store, and miles of cornfields stretching out in every direction like a dark ocean at night. I was 27 at the time, broke, tired, and trying to keep my head above water. My old job at the hardware store had cut my hours. Rent was due. My truck needed repairs, and I had about $40 left in my checking account. So when my uncle called me one afternoon and said he knew a guy who needed someone for a night shift, I didn't ask many questions. I should have. He told me it was easy money, just 1 week, 6 nights, midnight to 6 in the morning, cash payment at the end. The job was at an old gas station outside town, right off County Road 14. Most people called it Miller's Stop. But the strange thing was, Miller's Stop had been abandoned since I was a kid. Pause. I remembered passing it with my dad when I was younger. It sat alone beside a narrow 2-lane road about 8 miles from town. The pumps were rusted. The windows were dusty. The sign out front was half broken and always leaning a little to one side. The place had that dead look abandoned buildings get, like the air around them has gone stale. I asked my uncle why an abandoned gas station needed a night guard. He laughed and said, "Some company bought the land. They're planning to tear it down. Until then, they need someone to watch the property, keep kids and vandals away." That sounded believable enough. The pay was good, too good honestly. But when you're desperate, good money has a way of making bad decisions look reasonable. So I said yes. Pause. My first shift started on a Friday night. It had rained all evening, and by the time I drove out there, the road was shining black under my headlights. The sky was low and heavy. The trees on both sides of the road looked like dark figures standing shoulder to shoulder. My truck heater barely worked, so I drove with my jacket zipped up to my chin. The farther I got from town, the quieter everything became. No houses. No streetlights. No passing cars. Just wet pavement, empty fields, and the thin white lines of the road sliding beneath my headlights. Then Miller's Stop appeared ahead. Pause. Even after all those years, it looked exactly how I remembered it. The old sign was still there, creaking in the wind. Miller's Stop. The red letters had faded almost pink. The glass front windows were clouded with dirt. One of the gas pumps was tilted slightly forward, like it was bowing its head. Behind the building was a small garage with 2 metal doors, both covered in rust. There was one light on above the front entrance. Just one. It flickered weakly, buzzing in the wet night. I parked near the door and sat in my truck for a moment, listening to the rain tap on the roof. Something about the place felt wrong before I even stepped inside. Not dangerous exactly. Just waiting. Pause. The key was under the floor mat, just like the man on the phone had said. His name was Mr. Ellis. I had never met him. He claimed to work for the company that bought the property. He told me I didn't need to do much. Stay inside. Check the windows once in a while. Do not go into the garage. And if anyone came by, tell them the property was closed. That was it. The door opened with a loud metal groan. Inside, the air smelled like dust, old oil, and rain-soaked wood. My flashlight beam moved across empty shelves, a cracked tile floor, an old counter, and a coffee machine that looked like it hadn't worked since the 90s. There was still a register on the counter. There were still price stickers on the shelves. A faded poster for cigarettes hung behind the counter. It felt less like a gas station and more like a place someone had left in a hurry, expecting to come back. But never did. Pause. There was a small office in the back with a desk, An old rolling chair, a security monitor, and a landline phone. The monitor showed 4 camera feeds. Front door. Gas pumps. Back hallway. Garage entrance. The cameras were grainy and almost colorless, but they worked. I took off my wet jacket, sat down, and tried to relax. For the first hour, nothing happened. The rain slowed. The wind pushed against the building. The old sign outside creaked every few seconds. Creak. 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 That sound got into my head quickly. By 1:30, I was bored enough to check every drawer in the office. Most were empty. But in the bottom drawer, I found an old employee badge. The plastic was scratched, but I could still read the name. Harold Miller. Owner. The photo showed a man in his late 50s with tired eyes and a stiff smile. I stared at it for a moment, then put it back. That was when the phone rang. Pause. The sound was so sudden that I nearly jumped out of the chair. It was a sharp, old-fashioned ring. Loud. Ugly. The kind of ring that cuts through silence. I stared at the phone. Mr. Ellis had told me the landline didn't work. He said it had been disconnected years ago and was only there because nobody had removed it yet. But it kept ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. I picked it up. Hello. For a second, there was only static. Then a man's voice whispered through the line. Is Harold there? Pause. I didn't answer right away. The voice sounded far away, not like a bad phone signal, more like someone speaking from the end of a long tunnel. I cleared my throat. No, you have the wrong number. The static crackled. Then the voice said, tell him the pumps are still running. Click. The call ended. I held the phone in my hand for a few seconds, listening to the dead line. Then I slowly put it down. The office felt colder after that. I told myself it was just some prank. Maybe kids knew the old number. Maybe the line still connected somehow. Maybe someone had called from the company to mess with me. But I didn't believe any of that. Not really. Pause. At 2 a.m, I checked the cameras again. Front door was empty. Pumps were empty. Back hallway was empty. Garage entrance was empty. Then something moved on the camera, facing the pumps. Just a shadow. It crossed the screen quickly from left to right, passing between 2 old pumps. I sat up. The outside lights barely reached that area. The image was dark and grainy. I watched the screen, waiting. Nothing. I grabbed my flashlight and walked to the front window. The rain had stopped, but water still dripped from the roof. The pavement outside reflected the weak yellow light above the door. The pump stood still. The road was empty. The fields beyond were black. I pressed my face closer to the glass, trying to see past my own reflection. That was when I noticed something strange. The pump closest to the road had its handle lifted. Pause. I was sure it had been in place when I arrived. Now it hung loose from the side of the pump, the hose resting on the wet ground. I unlocked the door and stepped outside. The night air was cold enough to make my breath visible. Every sound felt too clear. The drip from the roof, the buzz of the light, the distant hiss of wind moving across the fields. I walked slowly toward the pump. My shoes splashed through shallow puddles. The handle was old and heavy in my hand. I put it back in place. And then I heard something behind me. A soft click, like the front door opening. I turned fast. The door to the gas station was still closed. But inside, behind the dirty glass, I saw movement. Someone had walked past the front window. Pause. I froze. The figure moved from left to right, slow and steady, like someone walking down the aisle inside the store. But I had locked the door behind me. I know I did. I ran back, grabbed the handle and pulled. Locked. My heart started pounding. I unlocked the door and stepped inside with my flashlight raised. "Hello?" My voice sounded small inside that dead building. No answer. The shelves were empty. The counter was empty. The aisles were empty. I moved toward the back office, trying not to make noise. The office door was open. The chair was spinning slowly. I stopped in the doorway. I had not left it spinning. On the desk, the phone sat slightly off the hook. A low static hiss came from the receiver. I stepped closer and lifted it. At first, I heard only static. Then a whisper. Not a man's voice this time. A child's voice. "Don't open the garage." Pause. I dropped the phone. The receiver hit the desk and swung on its cord. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. Every part of me wanted to leave right then. Walk out. Get in my truck. Drive home. Forget the money. Forget the job. Forget Miller's stop. But then I remembered my rent, my truck, my empty bank account. And I hated myself for staying. I told myself I could make it until 6. 4 more hours. That was all. 4 more hours. Pause. I went back to the front of the store and sat on the counter, facing the door. I kept my flashlight in one hand and my phone in the other. No signal. Of course. The place was too far out, too low in the hills. Around 2:40, the wind picked up again. The old sign began to creak louder. Creak. 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 Then the sound changed. Creak. Tap. Creak. Tap. Creak. Tap. I looked toward the front window. Someone was tapping on the glass. Pause. Not hard. Not loud. Just one finger. Tap. 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 I lifted the flashlight and pointed it at the window. There was no one there. But the tapping continued. Tap. 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 Slowly, I moved closer. My own reflection stared back at me from the dark glass. Pale face, wide eyes, flashlight shaking in my hand. Then something appeared behind my reflection. A face. Pause. I jumped back so fast I nearly fell. The face was pressed against the outside of the glass. An old man's face. Wet gray hair. Sunken cheeks. Dark eyes. He was standing inches from the window, staring in. I shouted, "Hey, the property is closed." The man did not move. His mouth opened slightly. At first, I thought he was speaking, but no sound came from him. Then his hand lifted slowly, and he pointed toward the garage behind the building. I blinked, and he was gone. Not stepped away. Not ducked down. Gone. Pause. That was when I finally called Mr. Ellis. Somehow, my phone showed one weak bar near the front window. The call rang 5 times before he answered. His voice was tired. "What is it?" I tried to explain what happened, but I sounded crazy even to myself. The phone call. The shadow. The voice. The man at the window. Mr. Ellis didn't interrupt. He just listened. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then he said, "You didn't go into the garage, did you?" "No," I said. His voice dropped lower. "Good, keep it that way." "Who was Harold Miller?" Another silence. Then Mr. Ellis said, "Just finish your shift." The line went dead. Pause. After that call, the building felt different. It no longer felt abandoned. It felt occupied. Like there were people standing just out of sight, breathing quietly in the corners. I kept hearing small sounds. A shelf creaking. A footstep in the back hallway. A soft cough near the bathroom. Every time I turned, nothing was there. At 3 o'clock, the security monitor flickered. All 4 screens went black. Then one by one, they came back. Front door. Pumps. Back hallway. Garage entrance. But on the garage camera, something had changed. The garage door was open. Pause. I stood up slowly. The camera showed the outside of the garage from the back of the store. One of the rusted metal doors was raised about 3 feet off the ground. A thick darkness waited inside. I looked toward the back hallway. The door leading outside was closed. I had not opened it. The garage had been shut when I arrived. I told myself the wind had done it. But there was no way. Those doors were heavy, rusted, almost sealed shut. I stared at the monitor. Then a hand appeared from inside the garage. It gripped the bottom of the door. Pale fingers. Still. Then the hand pulled the door down. Slowly. The camera feed flickered as the garage disappeared behind metal. Pause. I backed away from the monitor. My body had gone cold. I didn't care about the money anymore. I grabbed my jacket and keys and headed for the front door. That was when headlights swept across the windows. A car was pulling in. I stopped. An old station wagon rolled slowly into the gas station lot. Its headlights were dim and yellow. The body was dark green with rust along the doors. It parked beside pump number 2. The engine shut off. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a brown coat and a baseball cap. He walked to the pump, lifted the handle, and placed it into his car. I watched from inside, unable to understand what I was seeing. The pumps had not worked in 20 years. There was no power to them. No fuel. No service. But the numbers on the pump began to move. Pause. Click. 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 The old meter spun. The man stood beside the car, like everything was normal. Then he turned his head and looked straight at me. I knew that face. I had seen it on the employee badge. Harold Miller. Pause. My knees almost gave out. He looked older than the photo, but it was him. Same tired eyes. Same stiff expression. He raised one hand and waved me over. Not a friendly wave. A slow command. I shook my head. He kept staring. Then the lights inside the gas station went out. Complete darkness swallowed the room. Only the station wagon's headlights remained, shining through the front windows. I heard the front door unlock. Click. The handle turned by itself. The door opened. Cold air entered the store. And from outside, Harold Miller said, "Night shift is not over." Pause. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran toward the back hallway, away from the front door, away from that voice. My flashlight beam bounced across the walls. The hallway seemed longer than before. At the end was the rear exit. I grabbed the handle and pushed. It wouldn't open. Something was blocking it from the other side. Behind me, I heard the front door creak wider. Then footsteps entered the store. Slow. Heavy. Wet. I looked around in panic and saw another door beside the bathroom. I hadn't noticed it before. It was narrow, painted the same dull color as the wall.
Come on, boy.
A small sign hung on it. EMPLOAS only. I opened it and stepped inside. Pause. Stairs led down. I didn't know gas stations had basements, but this one did. The air coming from below was freezing. I could still hear footsteps in the store behind me, so I pulled the door shut and went down. Each step groaned under my weight. At the bottom was a small concrete room. Old boxes lined the walls. A broken freezer sat in the corner. There was a desk with yellow papers scattered across it. My flashlight moved over the papers. Receipts. Old schedules. A newspaper clipping. The headline made my stomach twist. Local gas station, owner missing after final night shift. The date was October 14, 2003. Harold Miller had disappeared from his own gas station during a storm. His car was found parked outside. The pumps were running. The front door was locked from the inside. But Harold was gone. No body. No sign of a struggle. Nothing. Pause. Under the clipping was a handwritten note. The writing was shaky. I read it with my flashlight trembling in my hand. It said, "It only opens after midnight. Do not answer the phone. Do not fuel the green wagon. Do not go into the garage. The shift chooses who stays." Pause. Something moved above me. A slow scrape. Then another. Footsteps crossed the floor over my head. I covered my mouth, trying to breathe quietly. Then the phone rang upstairs. Even from the basement, I heard it clearly. Ring. 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 It stopped. A moment later, a voice came through the ceiling. My voice. Hello. Pause. I stared upward. That was impossible. Then I heard my voice again, faint and distant. "No, you have the wrong number." The same words I had said earlier. The exact same words. Then another voice whispered, "Tell him the pumps are still running." My blood went cold. I was not hearing a new call. I was hearing the call from earlier. Playing again. Like the building had recorded it. Or remembered it. Pause. The basement light flickered on. I screamed and spun around. There, on the far wall, was a row of old photographs. They had been hidden in the dark until the light came on. Dozens of pictures. Men and women. Some young, some old. All wearing the same tired expression. Under each photo was a name and a date. Night attendants. Security guards. Travelers. People who had worked one shift at Miller's stop. And never left. At the end of the row was an empty space. A fresh piece of tape waited on the wall. Below it, someone had written my name. Daniel Carter. Pause. That broke me. I ran back up the stairs, pushed through the employee door, and burst into the hallway. The store was dark, except for the glow from the security monitor. The front door was open. The green station wagon was gone. The pumps were still clicking outside. Click. 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 I didn't look for Harold. I didn't look at the garage. I ran straight through the front door and into the parking lot. My truck was parked where I had left it. I jumped in, locked the doors, and turned the key. The engine coughed. Once. Twice. Nothing. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on." I tried again. The engine started. I threw it into reverse. That was when someone knocked on the passenger window. Pause. A little girl stood outside. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her hair was wet from the rain, and she wore an old yellow raincoat. She looked terrified. "Please," she said through the glass, "don't leave me here." I froze. Every instinct told me to help her. But then I remembered the child's voice on the phone. "Don't open the garage." The girl raised one small hand and pointed behind her. The garage door was open again. Inside the darkness, I saw people standing. Still. Silent. Waiting. Dozens of them. And at the front stood Harold Miller. He was smiling now. Not a wide smile. Just enough to show that he knew I had almost opened the door. Pause. I hit the gas. My truck shot backward, tires sliding on wet pavement. I spun around and drove toward the road. In the rearview mirror, the gas station lights came back on all at once. The pumps glowed. The sign flickered. Miller's stop. Then the sign changed. For 1 second, the letters were clear in my mirror. Still open. Pause. I drove all the way home without stopping. I didn't sleep that morning. I called Mr. Ellis again and again, but the number was disconnected. My uncle said he had never given me any job. He said he had not called me that week. When I showed him the number, his face went pale. He told me it was the old number for Miller's Stop, the same number that had been disconnected since 2003. Pause. The next day, I drove back with the sheriff. I didn't want to, but I needed proof. I needed someone else to see it. But when we got there, the gas station was gone. Not burned down. Not torn down. Gone. The lot was empty, except for cracked concrete and weeds. The pumps were gone. The building was gone. The garage was gone. Even the sign was gone. The sheriff looked at me like I was wasting his time. I almost believed I had imagined it. Almost. Then I saw something lying in the mud near the edge of the road. An old employee badge. Scratched plastic. Faded photo. But it was Harold Miller's face on it anymore. It was mine. Pause. That happened 3 years ago. I moved away from Missouri not long after. I found a better job. I fixed my truck. I tried to build a normal life. But every October, around the same week, my phone rings late at night. Always after midnight. Always from a blocked number. I never answer. Last night, it rang again. I let it go to voicemail. This morning, I listened to the message. At first, there was only static. Then I heard the sound of rain. The creak of an old sign. The click of a gas pump. And finally, Harold Miller's voice. Soft. Patient. Smiling. You left before your shift was over. Pause. I deleted the message. Then I looked outside. Parked across the street from my apartment was an old green station wagon. Its headlights were off. Its windows were dark. But the engine was running. Pause. And the meter on pump number 2 is still counting.